Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to our second LinkedIn Live. I'm here with Jake, founder of Trendsetters, and Amanda, back on shortly. Today we're going to be discussing avoiding survivorship bias and false growth signals on TikTok Shop. But first, just some context. I recently talked to Jake, snuck into his meeting with Jeremy and our founder, and heard him talking about survivorship bias. And I knew I just had to pick his brain because that's a strong term. And everyone is talking about the goalies, the micro ingredients, the Nellos, and trying to copy their strategies. But tons of shops are failing. And I feel like it definitely is because of this survivorship bias phenomenon. But really wanted to get on and explore it a bit more. For your guys' context, Jake has a lot of experience consulting big brands like McDonald's, Coke, L'Oreal, brings a lot of strategy when it comes to social media marketing. And Amanda, also one of the higher ups at Trendsetters, has a ton of experience building creator communities and is a creator herself. I'm actually going to be probably scheduling a call as her self-appointed apprentice and learning how to become a creator myself. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to just introduce the audience a bit more to what Trendsetters is, how it started, and just hear about you guys a bit more.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you again for having us on. What's up, everyone? Happy Friday on the LinkedIn for everyone tuning in. Yeah, so for some context, TikTok Shop, this has been strange for us because it's a new thing, but the platform itself is, and we're a Gen Z agency. So like in theory, it's all about like youth and being very young. And the downside has always been a lack of maybe experience, right? But with TikTok, it's kind of been the opposite for us, which is a really unique position that we've never been in before. Amanda, who leads our creator and influencer marketing and our team there, she was like famous as fuck on Musically and like huge big time there, and then jumped on our team to really build out our influencer program. We were launching brands onto TikTok in 2018, 2019. I even signed one of my first contracts ever when I was in college, was a deal to do things on Musically. So we are as OG as it gets. We launched a lot of the big brands that you're very familiar with when you walk into a grocery store onto the TikTok platform. And then we were brought into the beta launch of TikTok Shop as one of the 5 agencies to support that launch, launched 2 of the first 10 brands there, and immediately saw that explosion. And so, as the platform has evolved, we've certainly evolved who we are as an agency, but the core of being this Gen Z consulting and strategy practice leading into execution via content, social, and influencer marketing was kind of just perfectly positioned to be a great solution for brands trying to get into TikTok Shop. So that's a little bit of our origin story. Amanda has somehow been with us coming up on 5 years. I have no idea why she sticks around. She's certainly the smartest of the bunch, so I'll let her introduce herself as well.
Well, thanks. That's very kind. I'm still here because it's fun. End of the day, I mean, long story short, on my end is, like Jake said, I grew on Musically. And one of my first videos was, one of my videos was the first ever TikTok ad. So they ran that on all platforms that you can think of. And that was to help it switch over to TikTok and everyone start downloading it then. Lucky enough, it was 2020. So we all know lockdown happened. And so that video really blew up. TikTok blew up, all the things. So I started getting a lot of really cool brand deals. But something that I quickly noticed, and no offense to our 45-year-old marketing men out there, but like, you don't know how to talk to a teenager who dances on TikTok for a living. So I learned very quickly there was a gap there. And with Jake, who was, locally here, we were both in Kansas City. We connected and realized like, okay, he has a goal, I have a goal. Let's just come together and like help brands just overall be better on social media, but definitely TikTok, which is this new booming thing. And from there, we've been able to build a massive creator community that we've helped become very successful, but then also brought that success to the brands via the influencers and creators. So yeah, that's kind of my backstory. But yeah, I'm here because it's fun. It's been very fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love to hear it. It should be fun because this is all cool, cutting edge stuff. And now we're bringing AI. Creators are getting bigger. Now creators are driving everything. Creator marketing is booming. So lots of potential here to dive into. And I think it would just be useful for our audience to understand what's Trendsetter's role, or what's its differentiator in the space right now, because there's a lot of TikTok shop agencies coming in. And I know you guys were one of the first, but are you playing some sort of different role when it comes to the agency ecosystem, or providing anything different than those newer agencies who are coming in?
Yeah, there's certainly been a unique and interesting evolution there. Early on, we had to adapt our model as an agency to be able to take on the volume. There was so much business coming in naturally from the growth of TikTok Shop, but also that TikTok would refer and the TikTok Partner Center. And we really dedicated ourselves to being able to bring on as many brands to the platform as possible. And our thinking was we don't even, and for actually the first 18 months of our TikTok Shop practice since January of 2023 to June, July of last year, it was losing us a lot of money. And the reason being, we structured everything where, hey, we understood that our business and other pockets could afford for us to take losses here. Let's not worry about scopes and budgets and things of that nature. Let's put everything at cost and just try to load in as many brands as possible. So it accelerates our learning, but it also gets more brands into the platform so they can learn as well. So just trying to eliminate any barrier to entry as possible, which I think was also taken on by a handful of other agencies, maybe too, which was very important for the overall ecosystem. That said, at the end of last year, we had decided we're going to be much more of a boutique partner. So our model only runs now on commission. We are a commission partner for TikTok Shop. We see this platform as a primary vehicle for customer acquisition, as a means to support net business growth, which certainly not to say that other agencies don't, because there's different KPIs, there's different objectives. But for us, it's less about top line and TikTok Shop and more about customer acquisition to fuel the net, because we look at things like Shopify and Amazon and retail. So, our volume has certainly come down, very exclusive now as a partner, and we're referring out, 90% of the business that comes into us after we do some intros, and just keeping a very short roster of key accounts. So I think that's where our approach has changed a little bit. It's going to be a smaller, more nimble, more hands-on team working with, I think over the course of this year, we'll maybe get up to working with maybe 10 brands at once, but we're going to stay in that 5 to 10 range. And then it's going to be like the hottest nightclub. It's going to be one in, one out. So that's, we've adjusted our model there to think about how can we be the go-to for that. And we'll be launching a lot of educational resources and other things, making it all online for free, free community Slack channel, all these other things as those rudimentary tools, because, I think from our opinion, there's a lot of the steps 1 through 10 in TikTok Shop and testing and say getting to 50K in monthly revenue there can be pretty much be done on your own with the right tools. Now, Yuka is a necessity as one of those tools. There's a handful of others, but most are simple software features and tools. The rest, you kind of just got to scrap your way through. And so we don't believe that you necessarily need to be paying a ton of additional fees to an agency when it's pretty rudimentary, simple work out of the gate.
Yeah, super excited that you said that, because I think a lot of in this year, a lot of enterprise brands are coming on, and a lot of people are evaluating their marketing spend omni-channel and trying to figure out how they're going to establish a super big ROI really quickly in those first 3 months and get to this place like Goalie, Micro Ingredients, and Nello. And one thing I'm trying to educate a lot of people who book strategy workshops and demos is you can't just gift out a lot of samples, and you have to look at it, like you said, as a customer acquisition platform. Maybe it's a more cost-effective brand awareness platform, and then measure that omni-channel effect on the business for your net business KPIs, right? So I think that's a super important mindset switch that you have to make, right? Because everyone's like, how come I can't put in a fifth of my Amazon PPC spend and get the same results on TikTok Shop? And I'm like, well, that's just not how the platform works. It's creator driven. Amazon's a solved model. It's been there for tons of years. And I think that cues things up very importantly, where you mentioned this word survivorship bias, false growth signals. Just really hammering in. When you say survivorship bias, what does that mean? What is survivorship bias on TikTok Shop?
Yeah, and I know Amanda can speak to this on the creator side because that's probably the biggest dilemma. But by and large, it is this idea that these brands did an incredible and successful job. Therefore, if we do what they did, that will get us there. And it's not taking into account the time and place in which those brands did those activities. One of the things we see across the platform in this affiliate-driven ecosystem is I think more people need to think about what does the journey look like for an affiliate on the creator. And far too often things get boiled down to the financial. It's like, we're going to bid X commission, we're going to bid 20%, 25%, 30% against it. But what you're not factoring into that equation is what that journey looks like for the average affiliate on the platform. Any affiliate that's worth their salt, which unfortunately, the way a lot of indexing goes and what's going to come natural to folks, even using Yuka, is they're going to index sort by GMV, right? You have to assume, like, hey, that's amazing. These people all have 100,000 plus GMV over the last 30 days. We should reach out to all those people. You're not the first person with that idea. Let me just tell you, you're the 1,000th. And so you are sending them all these messages in this ecosystem that they're either not seeing or certainly not taking you up on. And so you need to think about your targeting and indexing vastly differently and understanding that affiliate ecosystem to think about how do you get in touch with the right creators, and more importantly than the volume metrics there, the creative is going to be the variable of success. So what does that actual output look like? And so you have this accelerating effect where the best brands on the platform can then continue to work with and get the best creators because they validated out success. So when creators are potentially working with brand A or brand B, the commission rate of 25% versus 15%, well, it's great there's 25% here, but 25% of zero is still zero. 15% of a whole lot is a whole lot. And so as those components get baked in, it allows the top brands on the platform to continue to work with the top creators and creating that cyclical effect. And it also creates a net impact where then those top creators, quote unquote, are perceived as top creators. But what is it? It's a bit of a chicken and egg dilemma. Was it the creators, or was it the brand, or was it the flash sale, or was it Black Friday, or was it all these other factors that you're not accounting for? And so it's a very long-winded way of saying this survivorship bias is going and copying and doing what the best on the platform in terms of revenue have done and thinking that's going to work for you, when that's simply not the case, because when those brands flighted and what their strategy was at that time was entirely different. There weren't these things happening. There weren't so many brands you were competing with. There weren't so many creators you were competing with. And so more of it needs to get back to more traditional principles of, we're going into market. How do we drive customer acquisition? What does our consumer journey look like? What does our creator journey look like? And too much of that kind of gets thrown out the window thinking, hey, we have to do this for TikTok. Amanda, you could probably speak more to the affiliate side because I think that's the main thing driving this.
Well, no, I think you covered a lot of it, but you're exactly right. When you weren't the first person to reach out to all the people that have the, highest GMV, and a lot of people, especially kind of OG influencer marketing thinking, when it's like, hey, go find the biggest influencers with the biggest followers, and you weren't the first person to email them either back in the day. And I mean, a lot of people would say, hey, just get your eyeliner to Alex Earl and it'll sell out. Like, maybe, but I think the goal of TikTok Shop, and the best part about it, is you can get it to a lot of people at once. And you kind of mentioned like, okay, don't just like send out a bunch of sample requests, just kind of have a strategic thought behind it, but you can kind of narrow in, okay, I just want to work with 35-year-olds, get it to everyone, and kind of tweak more of that content creation rather than, okay, what's the output they've had in the past. So to Jake's point, like, you can copy and paste all the influencers people are using and things like that, but what you can't copy and paste is the originality of that influencer. And so many people will be like, oh, well, Alex Earl said it like this, you should say it like that. You're not embracing the originality of that one creator and why they are currently an influencer you want to work with. So really honing into like why people are who they are, and just let them be creative. But of course, as an agency, we're here to help with like some bullet points. Hey, this is a really good CTA to help you potentially get like other customers clicking through on your product that you're promoting. And that's what we're here to help for. But we want to give them the steering wheel and you drive and what you think you're best at. So yeah, that's kind of my thought on that.
Yeah, that's super important, because like when I was working on influencer and affiliate and then transitioned to TikTok shop, sorry, I'd always tell the team the influencer relevance, the influencer theme, and that leads to that word authenticity. But is there something unique about what this creator is doing? Like, how creative are they, right? That's the most important metric, because once you give them the selling points that sell and the language that works for your brand and guide them, that'll have a better long-term effect than just saying, hey, copy a viral format, here's extra commission. And it just doesn't work. And like you guys said, GMV sorting, reaching out, that doesn't work because of like the function of the TikTok affiliate equation, where like Jake was saying, it's a combination of the brand success and then the affiliate offer, right? So if you just increase the commission, but there's no sales volume to entice the affiliate or boost on the platform, then you're missing a part of the equation. And then vice versa, the brand can scale back that commission because they're bringing in higher sales volume, getting higher incremental reach on the platform. And then that leads to more diverse content, more results driven for the brand. So super important to understand with that survivorship bias, you might be seeing on Calidata or on Yuka that the top creators for this brand doing this GMV are selling at this commission rate. But understanding the journey behind that, was that commission rate scaled back? When did the brands give those commission rate at what sales volume as they scaled? And then to Amanda's point, was the affiliate selection solely based on the GMV performance criteria? You don't know. You weren't talking to those brands' influencer marketing managers and understanding their sourcing process. And so that's super important, especially when looking at those GMVs of top creators and trying to add them to lists. Like, that's not a strategy you can just copy paste for every single new supplement brand that enters the platform. And then I think the next direction, I'd like to talk a little bit more is the goalie and the Nello, the big guys, right? Why shouldn't we copy their strategy? Why shouldn't we do what the top brands are doing? I know we just talked about the commission aspect and the creator aspect, but they're doing things like giving cars away. They're doing things like giving samples to every single creator. That's generating GMV. I always hear 80% of the GMV on the platform is driven by affiliates, and Goalie and Nello are doing that. Why should we not do that?
Yeah, I think principles of that model can apply to your business, but the margins have to be there, and a litany of other things have to be there for it to make it work. I'd also challenge folks, like, Golly's done an amazing job. This was also a company that went through some significant financial turbulence not too long ago. Just give it a Google. And so it's not to say that, I don't trust the current team in there, but like, that probably shouldn't be the North Star for what we should be looking at. It's just a matter of, are we prioritizing revenue at all costs, or are we prioritizing incremental growth? And one of the downsides, I think, of TikTok Shop has been the fact that now in the social media creator influencer environment, revenue is a KPI. And the reality of the situation in any form of business, when revenue is a KPI, it becomes the only KPI that matters. Everything gets boiled back down to that. Well, the path to hell is going to be paved with good intention. And that's the case when it comes to revenue being the sole and leading KPI. And so before you know it, I think you can run into situations where you are doing more detriment to the brand than you are doing potentially positive net value and net change. Sure, we're driving revenue, but people are only buy product when we discount it by 25% off. And is that going to hold up in a retail conversation? Hey, the revenue's there, but what actually drove the revenue? And even if you're able to skate by all of that, that's not a long-term strategy that's going to work in bigger, more scaled marketplaces. The other thing too is a lot of this is acceptable or able to get by because of where the consumers are at on the platform. But that is going to have a period of reckoning where what made TikTok a great platform was the fact that it was so authentic and real and honest, and and that still is what makes it great in a lot of ways. It's the core of the platform. But when you have people lying, faking it, just doing things to hardcore sell you, those creators are going to have their fall off. It's just going to happen. And the same is going to go for the brands that are reliant on that for revenue. And so as we talk with what I call, bigger influencers who are used to getting paid promos and deals, they've been dissuaded from even doing anything on TikTok Shop because they don't want to be defined as a TikTok Shop affiliate. They don't want, like, it's got a bad stain and a bad image right now. But inevitably there's going to be a gap that gets met there. And so I think this year, if the pendulum was over here right now, where everything's very sales centric, everything's commission driven in terms of a model, that pendulum is going to have to shift. And rarely does it go to the center equilibrium. Usually it shifts back further. And so I think we're going to see that shift where brands that are actually building on community and creators that are thriving in community and education and information, not sales tactics, they're going to start winning significantly. And we're going to see that pendulum shift in terms of brands, creators, and content. It's all going to have to get to more of a stabilized, true kind of marketing arena, because the things that are happening in this TikTok Shop ecosystem and bubble are things that if you put in any other pipe or platform or marketplace, they would get wrecked. And so if it doesn't hold a candle to a potential market equilibrium, it's not going to last.
Yeah, that's super important. I wasn't even thinking about that. It reminds me of I think you were talking about the like porpoise effect, right? Where if you have some sort of like crazy commission incentive driven thing, like for example, in sales, if you give a commission to a sales manager that's super high and seasonal, their performance is going to go super high up. But then when you take that commission off, it's going to go below that equilibrium, right? So what you're talking about is when it comes to sustainability, what happens after that practice is no longer sustainable because the marketplace has matured? Would it win on Amazon? Probably not. Is it working on TikTok because it's new? Maybe. And I think one thing to drive a bit more clarity for our marketers who are listening to this is what sort of KPIs can we look at, if not revenue, that can track and eventually lead back to revenue, right? Because every person watching is going to be like, yeah, I understand that, EMV is important, authenticity is important, but like, how do we measure that? Like, what are some secondary and tertiary KPIs we can look at for creators?
Yeah. Amanda, I'll defer to you for the creator KPIs because those are the ones we track most closely. It all gets back to a more traditional marketing funnel, which is like, where are impressions, where's engagement, and then where's conversion. And so much of your net new reach is going to come through your affiliate, creator, or influencer partners. And I mentioned those three because I think there's actually pretty strong distinctions between those, but also your organic reach on the platform. So what's your overall organic impression base? And as you add paid into that, I certainly haven't heard anyone running paid strategies that don't drive to sales in TikTok Shop. But like a true meta ads model is you have maybe 70% that are aimed at conversion, 15% aimed at traffic, and 15% aimed at brand. And as you work up the chain to more scaled and enterprise brands, the larger that percentage of spend goes to brand, because we understand it's not about getting one click to conversion. It's likely 7, 8 to 10. And so that traditional model is going to have to come back into the fold, because the buy right now thing is going to die out. And then that second layer, engagement, I think has been all but forgotten about. When things get incredibly salesy, you have to look at the comment section, and usually the comment section on all these top videos by GMV are usually ragging on the creator more than they are saying anything good about the brand or anything else, which also engagement should be measured both positively and negatively. And so if we add up the negative impact in some of this stuff, like if we were an agency doing it, we would get fired on the spot for something like that at the bigger Fortune level. But engagement can also equate to followers and followers on different TikTok pages. And some of these mechanisms that it's like organic social, the brand page has been entirely forgotten about. And then final component, conversion. So things are going to have to get back to a true marketing funnel, and that's how things should be measured. But the leading indicators we always look for that drive that is, and Amanda, I'll hand it off to you here, but like the affiliate metrics. What is the affiliate average views per post? What is the affiliate click-through rate on their content? And then and only then, what sales did they actually drive in that video? Because those first two indicators are actually more important long-term of where you can go sales-wise than necessarily what they're driving from a sales perspective.
Yeah, 100%. I think the only thing that I would add there on the creator side is you have kind of what Jake was mentioning, is you have the organic side of just the influencers post, of what they post daily, kind of understanding what their engagement is. Are they getting consistent comments? Are they getting shares? And like, are people willing to take that next step and actually click in and comment something? Because if they're willing to do that on their organic content, they're most likely willing to do that on a more salesy piece of content, as long as it's done correctly, of course. But then, yes, you look at the KPIs and the metrics that we really, track when it comes to TikTok Shop affiliates, and that's like click-through rate, engagement, sales, things like that. And then once that's kind of taken over to the ads team and they get to run that video, you get to rewrite all the metrics. Okay, what we read in the organic side and the affiliate side, what did it perform just as well on the ad side? And that's kind of how you can gauge, was this a good buy-in on this affiliate or not? And then obviously just the way that they create content and how they're able to like follow instructions and just communicate in general, because I think it's important to set goals with your influencers, building that community and relationship. It's not just like, okay, these are internal goals, but hey, influencer, here's goals that you want to meet and here's goals we want to meet. Let's meet in the middle and make that happen together, which is super important. So.
No, those are good points. And I think it's really important, like you said, to pay attention to like the influencer's theme, the content, the balance between organic and sales. Like, I'd love for you to elaborate more on some of the points where you're saying how content was filmed, how to analyze that balance between the organic and paid content, because I think there's a lot of newer creators coming onto the platform who might not have that strong track record of sales history, or also might be a budding content creator. Should brands who want to grow avoid those kinds of creators or embrace them?
That's such a good question. I really do say both. It's like taking on new influencers coming on to this TikTok Shop affiliate is kind of a win, because you can kind of mold them into what you need them to be. It's just the direction that you give them and exactly what you want, but also, again, letting them be creative. But you have a really good point of the organic influencers that are, they're posting regularly, daily, getting hundreds of thousands of views, and then they'll come on and make a salesy video and it's just them and their camera. Hi, I'm going to promote. It's like, that's stuff that I would stay away from. They're creative, but they're not able to be creative on a level of, hey, you can sell this. How can you easily implement that product into your day-to-day content? And that's the number one type of content that I'm looking for. Especially like, to get really nitty gritty, is like the day in the lives. And this girl is walking around with a water bottle the entire video. And you just have to figure out, where's that water? She didn't mention it once, but it's linked in her TikTok Shop bada bing, bada boom, those work the best. It's the people who can't figure out, okay, I'm going to incorporate this in my day-to-day content. But for the small guys coming in and trying to be an affiliate, I think they have a lot to learn. And especially if you're trying to build a community, I think those, you know, creators just starting out are kind of going to be your ammo moving forward, because you can kind of like focus on them and build them the way you need them to be. So yeah, that's kind of my thought.
Yeah, 100%. Really love that, because the newer creator who gets to post 2 to 3 times for your brand versus the stronger creator who posts one time and forgets and moves on to the next brand, who do I want more of in the long run? And how am I gonna, influence them to create content? Like, they're still discovering their own creative style as a newer creator, right? So to your point, you get to be a very early influence on that creator's growth and move towards a creator partnership model with your community of affiliates. And I think that's super strong.
Yeah.
One thing I want to touch on that you were saying, where creators make organic videos, then make a salesy video, right? I see that happen when a brand gives them a creative brief or pays them a flat fee with all those strings attached. When a creator makes a really salesy video, whose fault is that? Is that the creator's fault, or is it the brand's fault?
You know, it's a really good question. To a degree, like you said, when there is this flat fee and so many strings attached, that's when the influencer so quickly gets detached from the ultimate goal and their audiences and what works best for them. So even though, like, I think part of the issue is that these brands are having a really hard time letting go of their brand standards that worked on Facebook. It's not going to work here. So you have to let the influencers run with what they're comfortable with. But two, I think the influencers, I think a lot are really, really good at it, but some have a hard time distinguishing, okay, here are all the strings attached, all the bullet points that I have to hit. I don't just have to sit in front of a camera and read off these bullet points. I can get creative. And I see some influencers having a hard time with that. And I think that's kind of where it's both fault, but I think, those brands just need to kind of get rid of some brand standards that just aren't going to work here on TikTok and let it, roll naturally. But it's like any agency working with brands. How do you want to work with a brand that's just starting out, want to really help build their community on TikTok? I think it's the same thing for affiliates. It's like, hey, start early and like work with them to get to whatever goal they want. But two, with the bigger brands or affiliates, like you have respect for the audience that they already have. It's just, I don't know, sometimes when they come in and do the salesy video, it's going to be the best fit. It just kind of depends on how you direct them. But yeah, I think it's kind of a, give or take on both sides.
Yeah, that's super interesting, because one of the things I advise a lot of brands to do is take their creative briefs and put them into one page for TikTok Shop, right? Because there is no flat fee. You can't review content, so there is no strings attached, right?
Exactly.
And with these newer budding creators and smaller creators, if you were to put it into like simple words, how would we properly brief those bullets? Or like, what's a way abstractly to brief these creators for success?
Yeah, I think it's taking the extra time to sit down and look at what they have been creating and help them create that day in the life type of content that organically puts that product in their current content. If they're doing makeup and we're selling, I don't know, a vitamin, okay, while you're doing your makeup, like, can you take your vitamin and blah, blah, blah. Like, I think they are new in the sense of like, okay, how do I implement this? But with these new creators, I think you can kind of teach them and it's going to be way more valuable. So yeah, I think it's just figuring out how to organically fit what they're already making, taking that extra time to come up with bullet points that fit just them, not a whole community of people, but you took the time to figure out, okay, this is what you create. This is what I'm selling. Let's come together and create one video together. So yeah, that's how I would kind of do that.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. And I love the points you were hitting on about lifestyle content. That's what I've been seeing really do well on TikTok versus an Instagram. And that's what I've been hearing a lot of creators feel super comfortable with, right? Like if they're a dancer, maybe they do, after my dance practice, I usually just, pop in this protein shake. It's like, it's keto, blah, 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 like super great for me. Then I head off to the shower and I'm about to go meet out with a friend. And it's like,
Right.
you know, maybe it's just a micro mention, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And I think something that is very new with TikTok, it's been very different on other platforms, but you don't have to make the connection for people on this platform. They will do it for you. If you just mention this protein shake, they're gonna be like, oh, I really like her. I kind of like what she was saying about it. I will go find it. I will take that next step. So many brands think that they have to have the influencer say the entire thing. Okay, this is what it is. This is everything about it. This is why you should have it. And go click this part in like all the directions. This consumer base does not need those directions. They will do it for you. And if they have questions, they will happily go into the comment section and ask. So I think that part is something that we constantly forget, even like us as an agency, is like, this community knows exactly what they're doing. They're going to go get the product that they want.
That's so interesting you say that, because I feel like with TikTok, especially, that raw content and letting them deliver that to their audience is so big. And a lot of people are trying to distill a viral format from a top brand and then just repeat and recycle that. So really love the point about you saying let the creators bring that to them. The lifestyle content doesn't go frame by frame telling them to make these kind of cuts with this kind of hook and this type of call to action, right? So that's super interesting. I want to just bring it back to how to measure, report, and really wrap all these insights into an approach we can bring back to our sellers. So the Yuka flywheel and what we advise a lot of brands to do is get a bunch of creators in. You know, it's mainly a gifting model that TikTok Shop has supported, but that's changing, right? So get a bunch of creators, look at KPIs, like how many times has this creator posted, and then how many sales they've got. But you guys are saying start to look at those secondary KPIs with engagement, views, and then start to look at the qualitative data within the comments. So I want to wrap it up into some sort of framework that the audience can take away. What are some other secondary conversion driving metrics that brands can track?
Yeah, and they'll get defined as secondary. I would say these are the primary metrics to look at, and to actually ignore revenue and traffic pretty much entirely as you're flighting. So go ahead, flight with 100 creators, and make sure you're also running organic content at the same time. And when you flight with that initial creator cohort, I would even make sure you parse that creator set out into 3 to 4 different archetypes of creator. So sort by your different target markets, and then run a test. Hey, we're going to text Gen X women over here, and the next one we're going to text Gen Z women, but specifically ones that we're optimizing for average views per post. The next thing, duplicate target market, but prioritize GMV. The next one, prioritize engagement rate. Run an experiment across those cohorts. And before even looking at anything related to sales, look at average views per post organically before you run ads behind this, and then look at average click-through rate on that content. And then what we like to do is then run an experiment in an ad environment, run this in VSA first, put a little bit of budget behind all of those affiliate videos to then see, okay, here's what they did organically, take that data down, then flight with them, see what they do in an ad environment, because oftentimes it can be opposite, but sometimes your best performers organically will usually be your best performers in paid. And then that completes your kind of initial test, if you will. And if the views and the click-through rate is holding up, that is the signal for, okay, we can do great things on this platform. If, however, the views and the click-through rate aren't there, even if you got a ton of sales, that tells me you still haven't figured out what's going to get you to significant sales on that platform. And that's the problem, is sometimes people will correlate primary KPIs in terms of traffic and revenue and think, okay, we did this to get to 10K in revenue. We just need to 10X our system and that'll get us to 100K. Not the case, not as simple as that. those secondary KPIs matter more. They should be the primary KPIs, because if those are dialed in, then all you have to solve for is, okay, when content gets posted, it's interesting and it's engaging. Awesome. So we solve for reach. We can scale that to infinity now. Okay, what about click-through rate? Is it interesting enough to click on the product? Okay, if we have checked that box and we solve for that, it's interesting enough to click on. Now the only problem that we can dial in on is conversion. And conversion, in my opinion, is infinitely easier to fix than those other things, because those other things are reliant on creative. You can't touch it, you can't feel it. There's no tactic, there's no gamification. You just gotta just figure it out. So solve for the creative component, and creative isn't subjectively if you think it's a good video or not. It is quite literally what it do from a view perspective, what it do from a click-through rate perspective. If those two aren't good, then it doesn't matter what the sales are. So get to the point where on a test, you ideally want to have your only problem be conversion, because now that is something you can attack full force. You can run flash sales, you can bundle products together, but if you solve for those other things, then the core components in the funnel are now built. So those are the two metrics I would track most closely: is average views per post on the affiliate side and the click-through rate on that content. And then both of those metrics in an organic environment, flip them over, see what they look like in a paid environment. And that data will give you a signal. And that's the same test we run in pilot programs. And we'll run these pilot programs, and sometimes we'll get to day 90 and sales were actually pretty good, but we'll have to just be like, hey, this is never going to be a 1 million plus revenue platform for you. You're going to have to be committed to testing creative in the next 3 to 6 months. It's going to be very expensive. If you want to do it, we'll help you do it. I would do it on your own though. And then sometimes we get to situations where we're 60 days in, we haven't figured out sales, but those metrics are really good. And we're really excited as a team. And we're like, okay, great. Now here's what we're going to do to drive sales, because now we know a definitive answer.
Nice. That's super awesome. Yeah, I love that approach for like a breeding ground for paid and organic. Like I think that's like super cool because it goes back to that creativity and incubation you can really get on the platform. Super amazing. I can't wait for your guys' course. But one thing I want to do in these last few minutes, I wanted to get both of your guys' thoughts on how you see AI really playing a role in social commerce. You know, where do you see things headed in the industry, in the tactics? How can AI play a role in helping marketers and creators?
Do you want me to go first, Jake? Yeah, I think, well, on the creator side, I think AI is actually going to help a lot. And as like a past influencer, if there were some type of AI to help me come up with trends, content ideas, schedules for posts, small things like that, it would be incredibly helpful. But I know too, our managers needed, if like our agencies needed, if, you know, creators and influencers can kind of have AI responding to emails and sending portfolios and things like that. I think that's a really interesting way of looking at it. But on the agency side and working with creators, I believe having AI help, you know, bridge those gaps of what exactly was the content that worked the best and what type of influencers, and coming up with content ideas and briefs, and here's 5 more influencers that look just like that one that did well. But then on a crazy scale, I mean, just on TikTok Shop alone, AI live streams, AI just creators in general, AI. I mean, the list is endless of where AI can take us, which I'm really excited about. But as of now, I think it could just really help bridge the gap of those content ideas and just simply helping on the communication side. But yeah, Jake, what do you think?
Yeah, I think AI, it's our hope that it can solve things on the net data side to create a proper, or you'll never have a perfect attribution model, but a better attribution model. Because if we can if we can ensure that brands are valuing creators to 90% or 99% of their true net impact and value, then if that brand creator value exchange is dialed in, that's what's going to unlock the economies in social commerce best. But right now, that is where I think AI is going to have the strongest component. Certainly, there are things in terms of automation that are quite obvious when it comes to creative indexing and whatever. Like as assets get over 100 plus, it's impossible to really parse through that. There has to be a human involved in there, but the human shouldn't be involved in the data aggregation component. They should be involved at the end of it, parsing through the 5 bullet points from AI and then putting a human touch to it. So it's like, hey, let AI do the sketch for your Mona Lisa, but then you make it add the human element. That's where I think it'll play a strong role. Everyone's been trying to automate creative in AI. It can automate the step 1 through 99, but you got to have that final, music, if you will. But yeah, I think the biggest thing is actually on the data side is if we can connect in impact from things in TikTok to Amazon and Shopify and retail, the more we can unlock some of those black boxes, the better we can value creators, and the better we can value creators, the more we can know what creators we should be working with and what they should be doing, as opposed to just the only limiting KPI of TikTok shop revenue, which doesn't really share the full story. And in fact, I've even seen, I saw a pretty big brand, popular big brand for TikTok shop, and all their affiliates posting videos inside their retail store talking about how don't buy it in retail, you can get it for way cheaper on TikTok shop. Well, we've created a perverse incentive system. The retail team would not be stoked to see that. That's how you get pulled off a shelf. So those are some of the tricky things that hopefully, if we can fix data attribution, that'll as a result kind of solve this issue.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking forward to the day where we have an AI mixed media modeling to handle all the retail data, the omni-channel data, and show a creator's reach over Amazon, Instagram, and TikTok, or something like that, right? That would be super cool. And to the points on creative inspiration, content insights, our model is we're actually just bringing a new product right now where we're combining social listening with social intelligence, and we're extracting the top selling points, the top video formats, the top hooks. So to Amanda's point also on briefing those new creators and getting like a partially automated process of creative briefing, that's something that Yuka is super bullish on tackling. So for anyone watching, if you want to learn more about what Trendsetters, what Yuka's been talking about, feel free to book a call. And thanks so much for tuning in.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Happy Friday. Enjoy.
Bye, guys.